But for all their big talk and threats, the infamous two did not interfere when Jacob Tutu was carted off by two policemen to spend the night locked in the cell below the towering courthouse before being shipped to the abominable children's prison. Jacob Tutu, who was used to being tucked into a warm bed surrounded by his stuffed animals, tried his best to settle down on the bare wooden board in his cold cell. Unable to sleep, he passed the time trying to decipher messages scrolled on the walls by previous prisoners. The most prominent message, printed in blood red, warned, "Beware of the hooded Fang." The who? Thought Jacob Tutu when suddenly he heard somebody at his high barred window. Psst! Psst! Raising himself, Jacob Tutu saw that it was the intrepid Shapiro, accompanied by the fearless O'Toole. "We could have rescued you," said O'Toole. "But child power needs your help," said Shapiro. "Aren't I," asked Jacob Tutu a little sarcastically, "too little to help anybody?" "Oh, no," said O'Toole. "You must help us uncover the hidden children's prisons," said Shapiro, "and rescue all the poor wretches being held there." "But how?" asked Jacob Tutu 2 times. "Hide this secret supersonic bleeper in your ear," said O'Toole, "and we will find you wherever you are." So Jacob Tutu slipped the supersonic bleeper into his ear and was still wearing it the next morning when, blindfolded, he began his long journey to the children's prison, taking a route so utterly confusing as to confound even the most ingenious of his pursuers. Accompanied by 2 guards wearing dark glasses, he traveled by car, train, bus, canoe, helicopter, ox cart, rickshaw, stilts, dinghy, skis, submarine, flying balloon, camel, raft, dog sled, roller skates, glider, and motorcycle. Jacob Tutu's 2 guards on his seemingly endless journey were called Master Fish and Mistress Fowl. "I suppose," snarled Master Fish, "that your daddy loves you." "Oh, yes," replied Jacob Tutu, "oh, yes." "Well, I don't, you little stinker. In fact, I think you're perfectly horrible." Jacob Tutu lowered his head. "I can see," sneered Mistress Fowl, "that you're used to being treated kindly. Why, I bet your mother reads you a story before tucking you in at night." Jacob Tutu smiled in fond remembrance. He nodded twice. "Well, you repulsive little brat, you just wait until you hear the bedtime stories we read over the loudspeaker system in the children's prison." Jacob Tutu loves stories. "Are they good ones?" he asked hopefully. "Are they good ones?" "They certainly are," said Master Fish. "If you like to tremble in the dark and listen to tales of red-eyed witches, or bloodthirsty vampires," said Mistress Fowl, "or kidnappers, or monsters from outer space." Jacob Tutu shuddered. "The children's prison," said Master Fish, delighted, "awaits your pleasure." "But why?" asked Jacob Tutu. "Why a prison for children?" Master Fish was outraged. Mistress Fowl was appalled. "Don't you think there ought to be a place," snarled Master Fish, "for little people so utterly hopeless they can't even ride a 2-wheel bicycle? Or dial a telephone number," sneered Mistress Fowl. "Or count the laundry. or even cross the street by themselves. Jacob Tutu swallowed his tears. "Look here, you useless twup. Little people are always doing the wrong thing. Like waking up their parents at 6 o'clock on a Sunday morning to say the sun is out. Or gobbling all the peaches on the kitchen table before their elder brothers and sisters come down." Or, Jacob Tutu had to admit to himself, running to answer the telephone and telling Daniel's new girlfriend that his brother couldn't take the call because he was on the toilet doing a dump. "Admit it, clunkhead," snapped Master Fish. "How many times have you watered all the houseplants only an hour after your mother had done it?" "I was only trying to be helpful," protested Jacob Tutu. "I was only trying to be helpful." "Yes, certainly. But you drowned them, didn't you, ignorant little troublemaker?" Jacob Tutu retreated, convinced by his tormentors that there simply had to be a prison for little people as obnoxious as he was. But in his worst dreams he was not prepared for what lay ahead. Fog everywhere. Mistress Fowl smiled. Master Fish began to whistle a happy tune, and for the first time they removed their dark glasses. Jacob Tutu shivered. It was so cold. As his eyes adjusted to the dim light, the first thing he made out in the distance were two gigantic chimney stacks, filthy grey fog billowing from both of them. "Look," said Mistress Fowl, "we're almost there." As they emerged from a field of tall, spiky grass onto a muddy shore, Jacob Tutu made out a sign that read, "This way to Slimer's Isle, from which no brats return." The sign pointed toward a rowboat, a leaky rowboat, and Jacob Tutu was flung into it by his guards. "I'll row," said Master Fish. "I'll steer," said Mistress Fowl. "And you," they shouted together, "will bail, or we might sink." Rusty can in hand, Jacob Tutu bailed furiously, for the murky waters he quickly saw were infested with bloodthirsty sharks and slimy crocodiles. And it was no better once they reached the opposite shore, where the first thing to greet Jacob Tutu was a slithering snake. "Poisonous, of course," said Master Fish. The children's prison, Jacob Tutu learned, was built on a marshy island in the foggiest part of England, a place where the sun never shone. The only birds that ever flew over the island were buzzards, and the land could support no animal life other than gray wolverines with yellow snaggle teeth and millions of Death Watch beetles. There were no flowers, boasted Master Fish, but nettles thrived everywhere. "Hiding the quicksand," added Mistress Fowl. The prison itself, Jacob Tutu saw, was built of clammy gray stone. As he approached, its ugly towers, choked with vines that yielded poisonous blackberries, rose gloomily into the never-ending fog. "Home, sweet home," cried Mistress Fowl.